What comes to your mind when you hear the word mental health? I'm sure one of you may be thinking of diseases such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, ADHD, or maybe even addiction. These are all conditions that affect the same part of the brain, varying in degrees of the emotional, psychological, and social well-being of an individual. And whilst yes, we do know the names of these so-called problems and maybe even have a good idea on how they work, but have we really, as a society, come to the reality of the impact of mental health on our day-to-day lives? It's a topic that seems so inferior in our eyes, yet takes the world by storm every single day. How many of you know someone who suffers with mental health? I've been convinced by popular beliefs to follow the stigma that mental health only concerns those unlucky few individuals. But contrary to those beliefs, World Health Organization and various other statistics show that about 20% of the world's population suffers from some kind of mental disorder during their lifetime. That's 1 in 5 people, meaning that everyone should know someone who's suffering with a mental health disorder. And the fact you may think you don't leads me to my topic today, the paradox of mental health. Good day, I am Naomi Olua, the daughter of a psychiatrist, a brain-picking enthusiast, and an ambitious and dedicated young woman who's passionate about recommunicating the miscommunicated. Today, I've chosen to talk about the paradox of mental health, because mental health is such a foreign land. People have spent their whole lives studying it and still do not have a true grasp on how it works. Its importance and significance has only been recently acknowledged in our society, leaving it frequently misunderstood, ridiculed, and victimized. But still, we can do what we can as a society and a community to break down the stigmas and barriers surrounding it, to debunk the paradox of mental health. The paradox of mental health seems so complicated, yet it's really so simple. It's the result of stigma. The direct definition is that mental issues affect more than one individual across the spectrum than we perceive, but because of stigma, no one is willingly to openly discuss our mental health crisis, and therefore the issue is not always addressed. Stigma. What a word. Its very definition means disgrace or dishonor. Its effects are known to leave shame, isolation, hopelessness, even depression. It's the root of most, if not every single problem we face as a people. It's the same thing that allowed Nazi Germany to oppress Jews. It's the same thing that caused mass murder of Native Americans with no justice. And it's the same stigma that led millions of Black individuals to be shipped against their will and oppressed for hundreds of years. So why on earth would we allow this same stigma to have a stand on how we understand and perceive mental health? And the truth is, we shouldn't. But that's the paradox we live in. But I'm sure many of you are thinking, oh, I don't have stigma about mental health. Who does that? Well, let me paint you a few scenarios so you can really take a look at your mind. For my young people, let's say you've been invited to a party by a popular group and you had to call in sick. Would you rather tell them it's because you can't attend because you're in the middle of an episode of your depression, or would you rather tell them you've been grounded by your parents? To adults, you finally worked up your way to be in front of your boss and you've been invited to dinner and you had to call in sick. Would you rather tell them you can't come because you're sitting face to face with your alcohol addiction that's been holding you victim since you were 18? Or would you rather tell them you're passing a kidney stone? I'm sure the majority of us would choose the latter. I know I would. The thought of the embarrassment of revealing my own disabilities and shortcomings would be simply overwhelming, even though I have absolutely no control over it. Recently, Naomi, an internationally known tennis player, withdrew from a French tennis tournament due to her battle of depression. But rather than receiving reports for taking care of her mental well-being, she was ridiculed and even fined $15,000 for not talking to the media. But if a mental health disease was treated like a physical one, such as a broken leg, I'm sure that no one would have said a word or even made a complaint. This is all the result of stigma. So, how can we destigmatize mental health? Well, one way would be to encourage equality between mental and physical health. Did you know that the study of psychiatry is constantly and frequently being petitioned and challenged with claims that mental health is not a thing? This is happening right here, right now in the 21st century, an ideology that is clearly incorrect. And I truly wonder how much it has obstructed and slowed down the process of truly understanding our brains. Could depression have been helped as easily as the common flu? Could anxiety be the next malaria? And the funny thing is that we don't see cardiac surgeons getting petitions to stop finding better ways and more effective ways to operate on the heart, nor do we see plastic surgeons being stopped from their practice regardless of the controversy of their work. Yet we find psychiatry, above all things, being stopped simply due to stigma. Megan Dotson said, "I find when people understand the true facts of what a mental illness is, being a disease, they think twice before making comments. I also remind them that we wouldn't make fun of someone with diabetes, heart disease, or cancer. We need to normalize the fact that mental illnesses should be a socially acceptable disease. We could be honest about our treatment and lifestyle. By actively talking and sharing experiences of mental health, we can fight the stigma against it." Yazabel Garcia said, "I fight stigma by saying I see a psychiatrist. Why can people have an appointment with their primary doctor without fear of being judged, but the lack of fear does not apply when it comes to a mental health professional? Mental health talk doesn't only stem down to conditions, but even just conversations with the right people about their emotions, feelings, and their effects. We need to normalize the fact that mental health should be a socially acceptable disease." Finally, the obvious one, we need to educate ourselves and others. There's a saying that I like: "Not all that seems bad is really bad. It may just be different." And how do things no longer remain strange or different? Well, we have to learn about them. Through talks such as this, we educate ourselves, gain other perspectives, and break the internal stigmas. Sarah Bean said, "I take every opportunity to educate people and share my personal stories and struggles with mental illness. It doesn't matter where I am. If I overhear a conversation or a rude remark being made about mental illness or anything regarding a similar subject, I always try to use that as a learning opportunity and gently intervene and kindly express how this makes me feel and how we need to stop this because it only adds to the stigma. We need to normalize the fact mental health should be a socially acceptable disease." As my speech is coming to an end, I think it would be odd not to give you some tips and tricks on how to maintain and better your mental health. The most recommended way is through communication, although it shouldn't be with just anyone. It should be with an individual you know you can trust and has the qualifications and the ability to help you. Talking has shown evidence of relieving stress, it strengthens relationships, allows you to get a different perspective, and gives you support. For me, my person of communication is my mom, and I can vouch for all of these benefits. You could also better your mental health by eating well. The right nutrients are known to bring out good chemicals to be released in the brain. Also, taking breaks. Learn to slow down and to relax. Too much stress will always take a mental and physical toll on your body. Finally, do something you're good at or something you enjoy. Taking time to focus on something other than the burdens of life will give you a chance to catch your breath and gives you a chance to calm down. In conclusion, the world doesn't change by the world agreeing to change. It changes when people like you and I talk and share our opinions with the people in our communities, encouraging and educating one another till we eradicate the paradox of mental health. I am Naomi Olua, and today I hope I have explained the paradox of mental health to you. Thank you.